ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Sunday afternoon football. Broncos, Colts, one of the final two games of week one of the preseason. We got our first look at Bo Nix, the final of 6 first-round quarterbacks selected in the 2024 NFL Draft. So now we've seen all of the rookie quarterbacks from the first round that were selected this past spring's draft. And another very positive performance by one of these young quarterbacks in their NFL preseason debut. We'll talk about what we saw, or what I saw from Nix, what I saw from Jarrett Stidham, who started the game for the Denver Broncos, and across the field, AR15 back in action for the first time since week 5 of the season when he injured his shoulder and ended up on injured reserve and missed the rest of the season. So he hasn't played football probably since October of last year. So he made his return to the field. Jonathan Taylor was out on the field a little bit as well. So we'll get to all of that and what we saw in this football game. The game was just kind of wrapping up. It's 4th and 1 right now. Denver holding a 34-30 lead. Not that you probably care about all of this, being that it's a preseason game. But I can tell you Sean Payton is really treating this thing like a regular season game. He even called a timeout there, let the clock run. They're trying to draw the Colts offsides. Drew Lock quarterback sneak. Looks like he got the first down, and that'll do it there. So 34-30 will be the final score in this ball game. A very high-scoring preseason affair. And I will say that this game was very sloppy, one of the more sloppier preseason games I've seen in week number 1 this season, or preseason rather. A lot of turnovers both ways. There was one possession where the Colts turned it over, or excuse me, the Broncos turned it over. There's a fumble by the tight end. Colts scoop it up. They got the ball inside the 20-yard line. And on the very next play, Sam Ehlinger is hit as he's throwing the football, and it's picked off by the Denver Broncos. So a lot of turnovers, a scoop and score turnover, a strip, forced fumble, scoop and score, all by the same player by Indianapolis in this game. A bevy of turnovers, comedy of errors, if you will. Jarrett Stidham's one interception was not his fault. Speaking of which, let's start there with the Denver Broncos. They came into this game with a quarterback competition with 3 quarterbacks vying for one spot to be the official starter for this team, QB1. I really think it's a 2 QB race after looking at how things played out in this game. Now, again, it's one game, small sample size. I always want to call Zach Wilson Drew Lock because Drew Lock was there for the last couple of years. But Drew Lock, I just literally said that. Zach Wilson could start next week, right? In the preseason, and they could be rotating. But I really think it's Jarrett Stidham and rookie Bo Nix's job, here to compete for. And really feels like Jarrett Stidham is out in front right now. But I like what I saw from Bo Nix. I'm pretty sure Sean Payton likes what he saw from Bo Nix in this game. And again, all of these are pieces to the puzzle, steps in the process, if you will, to help determine, even if he does not start week 1, if he plays well enough in the preseason, it could expedite the clock in Sean Payton's head as to when he would be willing to pull the trigger should things not go well with Jarrett Stidham, right? If you don't see things that you like in the preseason, you'll be a little bit more hesitant to go to that young quarterback. If you see things that you like in the preseason, you may be a little bit more you might be a little bit more likely to say, okay, Jarrett Stidham, know what you are. I don't like where this is going. Let's see what the young fella has. So Stidham started the game, and he was solid, 4 of 7, 37 yards, and as I mentioned before, an interception. But the interception was not his fault. He had hit Samaje Perine in the flats, wide open, and Perine just did a whole juggling, bobbling act. It was ridiculous. It looked like it looked like it was straight out of Football Follies. He's just bumbling, stumbling, and juggling the football all around and gets hit. The ball pops into the air after like the fourth juggle. And of course, you would know it if you're a Colts fan. You know exactly who picked it off. Kenny Moore, who's always Johnny on the spot, picked the football off, gave the Colts great field position. I don't think they were able to cash in, though, and score any points off of it. And so that was really Stidham's day there. They had an opening drive, and I wanted to say this because Stidham started out really well. They had a bootleg on the first play. He rolls out, resets, hits Cortland Sutton. Nice little gain. Follows that up with a Tim Patrick completion into Colts territory inside the 40-yard line of the Colts. And then Tim Patrick gets excited, stands up, talking trash, and taunts, drops the football. But see, I know the officials don't know this, and they don't care. But I know why Tim Patrick was full of so much energy, right? You got to understand the backstory there. This is a guy, I'm a massive Tim Patrick fan. I remember just 2 years ago when he was a free agent, I wanted my Commanders to sign him in free agency, but he was never going to leave Denver. He signed a deal to stay in Denver and then promptly tore his ACL and then tore it again last offseason. So he hasn't played football in over 2 years, right? So Tim Patrick is just happy to be on the football field playing professional tackle football. And there was a lot of pent-up emotion there. He was excited. And, yeah, he got up talking shit and stuck the football out and dropped it right next to the defender. But he was just really juiced up because he hadn't played football. He was excited. There was a lot of energy there from him. And I wish they would have just taken that into account. But they don't know that, and they don't care. It's still taunting either way. But I understand where he was coming from. He was just excited. There are other ways to show it. But nonetheless, it netted the Broncos a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and it really just derailed that opening drive that had such promise, and Jarrett Stidham had them on the move. After that, there was a false start penalty, and then that drive was just dead on arrival at that point. So they got nothing out of a drive that was very promising. But Stidham's day, 4 of 7, as I mentioned, 37 yards, and that interception that was not his fault. Again, Samaje Perine bobbled the ball 15 times, and then it ended up getting picked off by Kenny Moore II. So Stidham was fine. And I don't think he did anything to necessarily, remove himself from the starting lineup. But it's less about what he did, more about what Bo Nix was able to show coming in of relief for Jarrett Stidham. Stidham played 2 possessions. Bo Nix played the rest of the first half and the first possession of the third quarter. And what you'll see from a lot of veteran head coaches is they like to have their young quarterback play the end of the second quarter into the early stages of the third so they can get that feel for what it's like to play in the first half, go into the halftime break, and come out of the halftime break and have to play again. So they just want them to get that feeling, and that's what he did with Bo Nix. He played that first possession of the second half, took him right down the field yet again. Audric Estime got them in the end zone, and that was it for Bo Nix. But let's talk about his day. The thing that stuck out to me about Bo Nix, and let me give you his statistics on the day: 15 of 21, 121 yards and a touchdown. He had a touchdown pass to Marvin Mims in the first half. The thing that stuck out to me the most was his mobility was on full display. I thought his feet were outstanding in terms of keeping plays alive, avoiding sacks, avoiding pressure, keeping his eyes up, looking down the field to make a play with his arm. But if it wasn't there, tuck it, run. I just was very impressed. And it's not like I didn't know Bo Nix was an athlete. I knew he could move, but, you saw him at Oregon. The ball was out so quick. There was rarely any pressure on him, so you really didn't get to see his legs a ton. Not like how it was at Auburn, where you saw his legs more so than his arm because he was always under duress, and he wasn't as confident, and the offense wasn't as wide open, and the defenses were just better. And so you saw his legs a lot more at Auburn than you did at Oregon, but he showcased the wheels, the ability to buy time, to throw the football. I thought he showed the ability, and this is what we know he has, the ability to get rid of it quickly, right? I see it, I get it there accurately, give my guy a chance. There was a lot of that, which I've said this already. I feel like he's going to be a really good version of Drew Brees, right? He's going to be a lower version of Brees. I don't think he'll be as cerebral as Drew Brees, but he has Drew Brees-like tendencies. Getting rid of the football, extremely accurate. Remember, he set the college football record from highest completion percentage in a single season at 74% last year as a member of the Oregon Ducks. So we know he can be extremely accurate with the football, short to intermediate. Really didn't see a lot of the deep ball in this particular game. But when he did throw the football in those short to intermediate zones, he was very, very accurate with the ball, as the 15 of 21 suggests. A lot of checkdowns, obviously, get the ball out of your hands. You don't take a loss making a profit, right? So you can't go broke. That's what they say. You can't go broke making a profit. So take what they give you. If it's 3 yards on 1st and 10, take the 3-yard check down and get to 2nd and 7. And he did a lot of that in this game. Stayed ahead of the sticks. Did a really good job of manipulating the pockets, avoiding pressure, using his legs to extend plays and find receivers down the field. He hooked up with the tight end quite a bit, especially at the end of the first half. And in early stages of the third quarter, he hooked up with the tight end Kroll quite a bit. And so he really was able to showcase some things. They left in some of the starters on his first possession, so he got to throw to Cortland Sutton on his first drive. So all in all, I thought it was a really good performance from Bo Nix, man. Threw the touchdown pass to Marvin Mims down inside the 5-yard line, got it to him quickly, accurately for the score. And I thought he managed the game well. It's what I expect from Bo Nix. And so I think what he effectively did today was he applied pressure on Jarrett Stidham. Again, I still think Stidham is in the driver's seat. And I don't think he did anything to remove himself from the driver's seat. But what I think Bo Nix effectively did was he applied pressure. Same thing I felt like J.J. McCarthy did yesterday to Sam Darnold, is he applied pressure. I don't think Sam Darnold did anything to remove himself from the starting job. And I don't think that, come next week or the week after, we're going to hear some announcement that J.J. McCarthy's your week 1 starter. Same here. I don't think Bo Nix is going to be your week 1 starter necessarily. I think it's a lot closer here in Denver than it is in Minnesota. But neither of the starters for those two teams in Minnesota or Denver, I thought, did anything to remove themselves. But it's more about the young quarterback getting his feet wet, showcasing the skills that allowed him to be drafted in the first round, and now applying pressure to that starter to keep their foot on the gas pedal, because if you don't, I'm going to take that job and be ready to go week 1. So I thought it was a really good showing from Bo Nix. Zach Wilson came in, and he was, I think Nix had one throw similar to Caleb Williams that could have easily been picked off. He threw it right to the safety. We see that with these young quarterbacks from time to time, where there's just like a misread, or they're not on the same page with the receiver, and ball is errant, and boom, safety has a shot, but it wasn't caught. But outside of that, I thought he was really, really sharp, and he looked the part, right? He looked locked in, and it looked like he had command of the offense, understood what the assignment was, and he went out and he executed well in his first NFL action. So Zach Wilson brought up the rear. He looks like he's the third quarterback right now. And he was out there with a bunch of guys that, probably not going to make the team. He almost threw an interception. Easily could have thrown 2, I felt like, in the game. But ultimately, he was solid, and he did what he needed to do, leading them down the field into the end zone a couple of times on some drives to preserve the victory. As for the Indianapolis Colts on their end, this was all about Anthony Richardson and his return to the field, as I mentioned, since week 5 of last season. 2 of 4 for Anthony Richardson in this game, 25 yards. I thought he looked rusty. I thought the timing looked off. If you've ever streamed on an app, and I'm big on tracking, right? I get on my wife's nerves when I do this because we'll be watching something and then the tracking will all of a sudden just be off, right? They're talking, but their lips are moving, but the words that they're saying aren't matching up with their lips moving. So it's like them going like this and their mouth is moving, and it bothers me, right? So I have to stop it, get out of the app, go back in, reset it to get it to be back on track. And that's kind of how I felt about Anthony Richardson in this game. He felt like he was off track, right? Felt like the offense was moving faster than he was moving. And I'll give you a great example. I thought this was a microcosm. So his first throw was horrid. It should have been picked off. Like I think it was Jamari Connor. I think one of those. I want to say it was number 27. I forget his name. Jumped right in front of it. Played it perfectly. Jumped in front of the offering. Should have picked it off. Hit him right in his hands, and it went through his hands and incomplete. But it should have been an interception. So the first throw kind of set the tone for what the day looked like for him. He showcased his legs on one play where he took off, ran for like two yards, got out of bounds. I guess somebody was talking some trash to him because he turned around and told him to do this. But the play that was a microcosm of the afternoon for me, for him, was a third down, right? The last play for him of the game. They were able to get into a manageable third down situation, like 3rd and 6 or something like that, maybe 3rd and 7. And they run the tight end across the field on a shallow cross, and he's open. And Anthony Richardson should have gotten it to him sooner, but even if he would have gotten him an accurate football, he still would have been able to turn up the field and get a first down. Instead, Richardson throws it behind him slightly. He has to turn and adjust to catch the football. In doing so, he turns into the defender instead of away from him and able to turn up the field and get the first down. And so he's tackled 1 yard short of the first down, and they ultimately have to punt. And that was the afternoon for Anthony Richardson. Had he thrown that football, leading that, so he got 2 possessions. They went 3 and out both times. And on the first possession, he almost got picked off on the 3rd down throw. And then on the second possession, he had a completion, and then he had another completion, this one to the tight end, but he was short of the first down. And they should have gotten that first down, and he should have stayed on the field. But he was not accurate with the football and in timing and rhythm. So you can tell he hasn't played in a real game setting in quite some time, and it showed. But if you're a Colts fan, you're just happy to see him back out on the field. And they say that they're happy to have 5-2-8 back on the field. So 5 is Richardson, and 2-8 obviously Jonathan Taylor. Those two, I didn't realize, only played a combined 3 snaps on the field with one another last year. That was it. I didn't realize. And then when I think about it, remember last year, Jonathan Taylor was dealing with an off-season surgery or injuries or things of that nature. So he was working his way back, and Richardson ultimately got hurt. So, very early in the season, twice before being done for the season. So they really didn't get to play much together. So it was good to see those two in the backfield and a couple of handoffs there. 2 carries, 4 yards for Jonathan Taylor. And I think Colts fans were just happy to have those guys back behind center. And then just another quick update. Their rookie 2nd round pick wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell, had a catch. So that was good to see if you're a Colts fan. And I think he's going to be really good for them. And it's going to be interesting to see how they work all of these guys in and how they try to utilize them. Josh Downs right now, a little banged up, so he didn't play in this game. But they have some stuff. We'll see how it's all going to end up being slotted when it's all said and done. So that was really the gist of this football game in particular. Really felt like the real focus was on the quarterbacks on both sides, right? And we got to see that the vast majority of that in the first half, and then a little bit of that in the third quarter with Knicks hanging around for the first possession of the third quarter, taking them down the field into the end zone. And then that was the end of his day. So again, I like the fact that and this is what I was really upset about with Drake May, right? He, of all of the 6 quarterbacks that we got to see that were all first round picks, May is the only one that isn't currently QB1 for his team. The 2 right now that are currently QB1s are the first 2 picks in the draft, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Both of those guys played what those teams felt like was enough. You know, Jaden Daniels had an 11-play drive, so he didn't need another possession, and that 11-play drive ended with a touchdown run by Jaden Daniels. So his day was done. He had gotten plenty of work. And Caleb Williams had 2 drives, had 7 passing attempts. He was out there for quite a bit. So you saw enough from him. But those guys are starting. So even if they only played 1 possession, that's fine, right? The guys that aren't starting, all right, the Drake Mays, the Michael Penix Jr.'s, the J.J. McCarthy's, and the Bo Nixes of the world, those guys aren't currently starters on their team. They should be taking a ton of reps. They should be in the double digits in terms of attempts. They should be out there for multiple possessions, and you should be able to see what you've got. Now, again, with Drake May in particular, Thursday and Friday on the East Coast was just a mess. And so you have to take that into consideration as well. The conditions were not ideal for your quarterback to be out there for a long time, your starters to be out there for a long time. So from that standpoint, I get it. I will be focusing in on Drake May very heavily this week, because if the weather's fine and it permits him to be out there, I don't want to see him out there for just a possession, right? At that point now, I think you're trying to hide something from me, right? So, and he didn't look bad enough for you to be hiding him from anyone. So we'll see how they handle him. But, you know, Knicks 21 attempts, McCarthy 18 attempts, Penix, I think 11 or, 12 attempts. You know, that's what you expect from, a quarterback that's not starting, that's your, rookie quarterback that you want to see what he's capable of, right? So really solid start for Bo Nix. And again, I think he's applying pressure to Jarrett Stidham, but again, I think it's still Stidham's job to lose. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into Inside the Odds, powered by BetUS.
Inside the Odds.
Inside the Odds, powered by BetUS. Looking for a new sports book? This football season, BetUS is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry. 125% sign-up bonus, up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. Fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. If you're looking to check it out, the link is in the description to my BetUS link. So here are the numbers for the game via BetUS. So, I'm always fixated on the total. 38 was the total. The Broncos themselves almost scored over the total. 34-30 was the final score in this game. So 64 points. I told you this is a sloppy game. I think there might have been 5 turnovers total between the two teams. Colts had interception. They also had a fumble that they scooped up and scored. The Broncos had an interception. And I'm trying to think that they also have another. I think they might have had, no, I think that might have been it. And then the ball was on the ground again late in the game. There might have been another turnover in there that I'm not remembering, but it was a crazy game either way. The money line, Broncos were favored. Obviously, you see the spread, 1.5 point favorites in this game. And look, you looked at the Broncos roster, you looked at the quarterback situation, you just expected them to be better, and they were in this game. And so Vegas got it right. So let's take a look at the season odds for the win total, also via BetUS. And this is the Denver Broncos over under win total for the season. 5.5. 5.5. And Vegas is essentially telling you that we're hedging our bets here. Like, we're not sure what the Denver Broncos are going to be. They could go either way. They could win 5 games this season. They could win 7 games. We're not sure. So we're going to hedge our bets here. And so you got minus 105 on the over 5.5, and you have minus 125 on the under 5.5. If I were a betting man here, I would probably take the over. I think they're going to win 6 games this season. I look at them. I look at their situation. It's a tough division, right? Chargers, and I think the Raiders are an improved team, and you still have the Chiefs. It's a tough division, but when it's all said and done, I think they're going to find a way to 6 wins. So I would take the over here, but it'll be interesting because the quarterback is ultimately going to be a huge determining factor as to how well the Broncos play this season. So I'd take the over right now, but that could definitely change in a blink of an eye with their quarterback situation and really just not knowing what they're going to do there. Let's take a look at the home team from this game, the Indianapolis Colts, and their over under win total for the season. And it's a pretty lofty one. Now, I had to remind myself that last year, Indianapolis almost made the playoffs and they won 8 games or 9 games last year, right? I think Indy won, I think they won 8 games last year. If I'm not saying, it might have been 9. I'm trying to think, what was Houston's record last year when they won that division by beating the Indianapolis Colts in week 18 of the season last year? I think Houston was a 9-win team last year. I don't think they were a 10-win team last year. So either way, 8.5 seems like a big number for Indianapolis, especially with the question marks with Anthony Richardson. Now, I know he looked good in the games that he played in last season, and that got Colts fans very excited. But I don't know, man. 8.5 seems like a big number. And that's an improved division. Like, the Titans are no pushover. The Texans aren't going away. They're good, and they're going to be good. And Jacksonville, I think, is going to be much better this season. I don't know if 8.5 is like you're saying at minus 125 that the Colts are winning 9 games, essentially. Boy, that's tough because I could see them. I think I see them at 8 or 7. I think 7 is where I kind of see them, but the Colts are a tricky team. And don't forget, Gardner Minshew was there. You know what, too? What I didn't realize watching this game, Joe Cool is out there. So just in case Anthony Richardson isn't able to make it to the finish line like he wasn't able to make it last year, you have an experienced veteran that can take you where you want to go. Last year, Gardner Minshew left you at the doorstep of the postseason. Flacco was able to get the Browns into the postseason when Deshaun Watson got hurt last year, which is what helped him win NFL Comeback Player of the Year. So you have an experienced veteran quarterback who is capable of taking you to the postseason should something go awry with Anthony Richardson. So you know what? With Flacco being there, it makes me feel comfortable, puts me kind of at ease, even if Anthony Richardson isn't able to stay healthy. And I thought Flacco looked good in his, limited performance today. We already know what Flacco is as a quarterback. You got minus 105 on the 8.5 under total for wins. I think they're going to win 8 games this season, which I'll take the under on Indianapolis. Slightly under. I'll take the 8 and the minus 105 on the money line for the Indianapolis Colts. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. So let's get to your comments from this game and what you saw, what you expect, and, and what you think is going to happen this season with these two teams in particular. So I see Red Wing 01 says, I expect Bo Nix to be QB1. JJ McCarthy is a toss-up. I went into the offseason feeling like Bo Nix was going to start in Denver. That was always my assumption. That was always the way that I was approaching the situation. And then they kind of scared me a bit when they came out and said that he was QB3, but they said, hey, don't be alarmed, because as we saw in this game, he came out and he played second. So although on the unofficial depth chart, he was listed as third, he played second in this game. So I kind of feel better now. Had he came out third in this game, like if they would have played Zach Wilson after the 2 Jarrett Stidham drives and Zach Wilson played for about roughly about a quarter or so, and then Nix came in third and played the final possession of the second quarter into the third and, finished up the game or whatever, I would have felt like, okay, he's not going to be their week 1 starter. But by him coming in second and playing the way that he did, it makes me feel like what I thought initially might come to fruition. So I think I agree with you, Red Wings 01, that I think this might be Bo Nix's job in Denver. And then JJ McCarthy, I don't even know if I feel like it's a toss-up. I think they're going to start Sam Darnold. I will tell you that JJ McCarthy was very impressive, though. Even more so to me than Bo Nix was, because Nix felt like he was just managing the game, whereas JJ McCarthy was out there making plays. He was throwing dimes. He was out there being a playmaker. He was seeking out the deep ball, and he was looking to get explosives. And I thought he was out there going for it, where it felt like Bo Nix was just doing what I felt like Bo Nix is made to do, which is manage the game, right? Red Wing 01 also writes, I think the Vikings will give Sam Darnold an honest crack at QB1 to start the season, as do I. I think we're in lockstep here. He says, but by week 6, if he underperforms, I think they'll put in JJ. Same here. Yeah, we're right here, right? We are locked in. I feel the exact same way. Old Man 803 says, I think JJ McCarthy will give Jaden Daniels a run for his money with the second best rookie QB, with Caleb being number 1. We're going to talk about that at a later date and time. That's an interesting conversation to see how things shake out as far as these young quarterbacks. I'm going to be fascinated with them this season because there's so many of them. The last time that I was this involved with a rookie class of quarterbacks, it was 2012, because anytime my team drafts a quarterback, I am then heavily invested in that crop of quarterbacks because my quarterback is in it. I'm watching everything that he does, and I'm comparing him to his peers. So I did that in 2012. I had a series called The Starting Five, which was coincidentally the first year I started the LouieTeeNetwork. And that was a lot of fun. I don't think I'm going to do anything like that, but I will be keeping very, very close tabs on this quarterback class. Obviously, Penix shouldn't play at all this season if things go well in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. But the other 5 quarterbacks could easily find themselves, and probably should find themselves, on the field at some point this season, with May probably being the guy that finds himself on the field the latest of the other 5 quarterbacks that were taken in the first round. I think Nix has a chance to start. We know Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are going to start week 1 for their teams. And I think McCarthy, like you said, Red Wing 01, has a chance to start very early in his rookie season. So it'll be fascinating to see when the bubble wrap is pulled off of all of these young quarterbacks and they're turned loose and we get to see what happens with all of these QBs. Ghost Rider says, will JD be announced as the starter this week? I don't know if they'll do it this week or after this week's game. I'd like to think that it's coming either before or after this Miami Dolphins game. I mean, again, it's no secret, as Dan Quinn said. We understand what's happening here. It's a process. So I'm not really at this point sweating it anymore, because we know it's going to happen at some point. It's inevitable. And so when it happens, it happens. You know, it's all a formality at this point. So my guess, though, would be after this preseason game. You know, there's no reason to announce anything right now because he still needs to go out and play well and do all of that stuff. After this Dolphins game, he won't play in the third preseason game against New England. So at that point, you can announce him as the starter and you can start planning for week 1 against Tampa Bay. So I think it'll be after this preseason game against the Miami Dolphins, but we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. Asan Moore says the Texans won 10 games last year. The Colts won 9. Okay. I knew it was either 8-9 or 9-10. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember which it was. I kind of felt like it was 8-9 and not 9-10, but I knew it was somewhere in there. The Texans were really good last season. And so I'm not surprised that it was 10-7 for them last year and 9-8 for a Colts team that really, I thought, overachieved last season. So that's why the number is so high for both of those teams. We looked at the Texans during the Hall of Fame game. We looked at their over-under, and I think the number for them was 9.5. So it makes a lot of sense because they won 10 last year. And then the number for the Colts this year, we just looked at it, 8.5, makes a lot of sense because they won 9 games last year. So those numbers make a ton of sense in the grand scheme of things when you look at what they were able to do last season. So thank you for that clarification, Asan. That makes a lot of sense. Sarah says, as a Vikings fan, our bye week is week 6. I think McCarthy will go in after the bye week. So week 7 would be, I guess, an ideal situation for him to come off the bye. You know, you would like to start your rookie at home if at all possible, but it's not a requirement. So if Sam Darnold gets out of the blocks struggling, you know what, too? You know, I don't even know if it matters unless he gets out of the gates just killing it, guns a-blazing, and the Vikings go into that bye week 4-1 or something like that. I don't see any way he's your starter after the first, if they feel good about it. Remember, think back 3 years ago to Tua Tagovailoa. Or was it 4 years ago? It was 4 years ago. Think back to Tua Tagovailoa in his rookie season. 2020. He came into the league. He was coming off of hip surgery, if you recall. Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing really well. The Dolphins had started out slow, and then they had won 3 in a row, including going to San Francisco, who we didn't know at the time was going to stink that year. Remember, the 49ers went to the Super Bowl the year before in 2019. So they went to San Francisco and beat the brakes off of the 49ers. Now, the 49ers would end up winning like 6 games that year. They had a bunch of injuries. You know, Bosa got hurt, and Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, and you know, everybody on that team got hurt. So they were a bad team that year. But at that time, we didn't know they were going to suck. And so, you know, Fitzpatrick is feeling good. They've won 3 in a row. They head into their bye week in week 6, 3-3 after starting 0-3 on the season. And they benched Fitzpatrick and put Tua in after the bye week, right? And Fitzpatrick was pissed. And, you know, a lot of the players were kind of flummoxed, like, man, we're playing well. But it wasn't about him. It was about getting that young fella in there and getting him that experience. I wonder if the Vikings are going to do that with McCarthy if, and this is assuming that he's not the starter, come week 1. There's still an outside chance that happens, but again, this feels like Sam Darnold's job. But assuming that Darnold is the starter to start the season off, could we see a similar situation where they already have it ingrained in their brains that no matter what happens, unless Darnold gets off to a 5-0 or 4-1 start and he is just absolutely slaying the competition, outside of that scenario, which nobody sees that happening, right? We know who Sam Darnold is at this point of his career. Maybe they say, look, 3-2, 2-3, doesn't matter. We're putting in JJ after the bye. That's interesting. I wonder if that could be the case. We'll see. Red Wings says the Patriots would be smart to let May sit most of year 1, even if Jacoby Brissett is less than ideal. Let him develop and beef up the O-line and get a legit wide receiver 1 for next year. At this point in the NFL, with the way we view quarterbacks, it's hard to envision a quarterback sitting for an entire season if you're not any good. Like, when we think about quarterbacks who sat an entire year, it's because their team was really good and there was no need for that quarterback to play. You go back to Patrick Mahomes and you think about him not playing. Why didn't he play? Because Alex Smith started off that season 5-0, and they ultimately won the division, won 11 or 12 games. And so Mahomes got to start in that week 17 contest against Denver in his only start of his rookie season, but he had no reason to play. The Chiefs were good. They won their division, and that's what kept him at bay. You think of another young quarterback that didn't play at all in his rookie season. We don't have many examples of this because you just don't do that anymore in the NFL. Jordan Love didn't play. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers was busy winning the MVP of the league. That's why. And taking the Packers to the NFC Championship game. He did that like 2 years in a row where he won league MVP. So that kept Jordan Love at bay, right? For all of those years, because Aaron Rodgers was playing at such a high level and the Packers were winning and going to the NFC Championship game or the divisional round every single year. But those instances are rare. That's not what the New England Patriots will be this year. So it's hard to justify in your mind as a fan or even as an organization if you're getting your brains bashed in. We looked at the Patriots over/under win total the other day when we were talking about Drake May and we were talking about the game that they had against Carolina. The number is 4.5. Okay. They're going to be one of the worst teams in football. So if that's the case, there is no way you can convince anybody that Drake May shouldn't be on the field at some point this season. Now, I'm not telling you he should be out there in week 4 or even week 8, but you get to week 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood, he needs to get in there and finish up the season and get his feet wet so you can start to see what you have, and then you move forward that way, I believe. The only way you don't play a rookie quarterback that you drafted in the first round in his rookie season is if your team is good. And it's rare that a team selects a quarterback in the first round if they're good. So the likelihood is he's going to play at some point this year. I don't think it's an if scenario. It's a win in terms of when he gets in the game. Red Wings continues to say, I think they at least want to use Jacoby to assess their current offensive situation and see if it would be wise to drop in the rookie there. Don't chuck a kid into the fire without an extinguisher. I don't disagree with that. I think that's why you went out and got a Jacoby Brissett, because it allows you to ease him into the fire, right? It allows you to ease him into the fire. Jacoby Brissett essentially is the extinguisher, right? Because at some point they're going to put him in the fire, right? But Jacoby allows you to spray the fire and keep it down a bit. Don't let it spread to where it's uncontrollable. And when you drop him in there, he can get burnt up and have third-degree burns. Jacoby is the extinguisher. So there's going to be still some fire, right? But it'll be a small little, a small little fire here, right? It won't be this raging firestorm. That's what Jacoby Brissett is here to do. Keep that thing down, right? And then by the time Drake May gets in there, he'll be able to, play the final 5, 6, 7 games, whatever it is. And you get to see what you have going into next year, right? That's what I think. Sherry Bodape says, do you think the Broncos have the worst roster in the NFL? No, I don't. I don't know who that distinction belongs to right now. My guess would, I want to say Carolina does, but I can't even say that because I still haven't seen them at full strength. And I actually like some of the weapons that they've acquired, Xavier Legette, and they got the receiver from Pittsburgh in a trade, and you still have the receiver from Minnesota that played really well for you last year, for the Panthers last year. So and they drafted the running back Jonathan Brooks from Texas. They drafted the tight end from Texas as well. So I think they all of a sudden kind of revamped that roster. We don't know how good any of those players are, by the way, but at least they have some stuff, right? So I want to see what it looks like first before we go off. You know, I think the Patriots might have the worst roster in football, theoretically speaking. They got a bunch of stuff. None of it is elite. Matthew Judon probably is the best player on their team, and he's currently disgruntled with his contractual situation. So when you look at them, I think Gonzalez has a bright future at corner. There's not a lot of stuff there, though, that gets you really excited. Jabril Peppers is really solid. You put him on a team, he could be really good to help someone. But on that team, he's average to me. I don't really think there's a lot of talent that gets you excited in New England right now. So I'd say the Patriots probably have the worst roster in football to me right now. You have no chance of winning anything of note with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback either. So that's a pretty desolate situation in New England right now, which is why Brandon Ayuk didn't want to go. Which is why Brandon Ayuk did not want to go. It's not a great situation, and you can't be mad at him for that. You could be upset if you're a Patriots fan, like F Brandon Ayuk. We ain't want your ass anyway. Yes, you did, and you wouldn't want to go to New England. And look, nobody should feel bad for the Patriots. They had a 2-decade reign of terror over the NFL. They deserve this, okay? They deserve to be down on their luck, and we'll see when they get back up. But it could be a while, and I don't care. I don't care. I love it. Okay? So I think it's the Patriots, not the Broncos. I think the Patriots roster is really, really bad. And the Titans, that's a good one, Red Wings. The Titans roster, I gotta watch them. Boy, they're really hurting for talent, but they got some stuff. At least there's some elite stuff there. You know, Jeffrey Simmons is an elite player. They signed Calvin Ridley. He's not elite to me, and I thought they overpaid for him, but at least he gives them something. DeAndre Hopkins is still really, really good. He got hurt though. That sucks. But they have some stuff in Tennessee. At least they have some stuff. So I'm going to stick with New England. I think New England is the one. Anyway, I digress. JLG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JLG writes, excuse me, Lou, LOUAOO. Oh, I. That's an I. I told you I hate that those L's and a capital I are the same. Lou, IOUAOO. Do you? Really? Let's find out why. I like when people come back and offer up a double O because it rarely happens, right? People say stuff all the time and they walk away from it and don't claim it as if you're leaving, a child on a doorstep and walking away like it's the 1940s, right? With a note. People abandon their takes, and I'm not chasing anybody down. But when they're right, they come back, they super chat me, hey, I told you this 6 months ago, right? When I always got to own up to mine because y'all ain't going to let me forget it. And I'm glad y'all hold my feet to the fire and hold me accountable, right? But I'm going to hold myself accountable, first and foremost. He says, I just rewatched our game, and John Ridgeway is definitely making this team. That man is in shape and looked good yesterday. And I don't think it was you, but somebody had asked, did Johnny Newton play that on the NFL Plus app? They heard his name. No, he did not dress yesterday. So I don't know who started alongside of Fedarian Mathis. My guess is Benning Pota'ai. Pota'ai. There we go. Pota'ai. I think that's who started because on that second possession, he got the sack. So I think he would have probably been in on that first possession. But Ridgeway looked good, man. And I thought he played thought he played well against the run in the game yesterday. But again, I don't know what their thought process is. I have no idea if they're going to keep 5. If they're only going to keep 4, and if they're going to keep 4, it then becomes a discussion, Phil Mathis or John Ridgeway. And I've already said, if you cut either one of those dudes, don't expect to get them back. I'm just telling you right now, in a league that is starving for interior defensive linemen, if you cut one of these dudes, don't expect to get them back. I wouldn't do it if I were Washington. We have other positions where there's just not enough talent, and you should be able to keep 5, and it shouldn't affect your roster. I wouldn't do it. But again, they may want to keep another guy at a different position, i.e. running back. After what I watched with the linebackers, I kept 6. I don't see the need for 6 linebackers. I don't. I'd be comfortable with 5. Now, I asked you guys, did Jordan McGee play? Because I didn't see him. He sure did play. He played early, and they took him off the field like he was a starter. Okay? I expected to see that man in the game well into the second quarter, maybe even into the third quarter. That man came off the field essentially at the end of the first quarter. He was done. That man played like 10 snaps. That was it. So they treated Jordan McGee like he was a second-round pick, like Mike Sainristil. That's how high they feel and how highly they that's how highly they think of Jordan McGee right now. Anyway, I digress. I accept your 00. But you didn't. So I don't know what you said about Ridgeway. I don't think you need to offer up a 00 quite yet, because you really didn't offer up a 00. You just told me that you owe me a 00. Hold that, put that 00 in your back pocket. Put that in your back pocket for now. If he makes the team, you can come back and you can offer up the 00 then. Okay. You might not be wrong. So just hold on to the 00 for now. Okay. RVA point of views. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, what up, dog? What up, RVA? Says, how in the hell I missed Jordan McGee playing with their first team and was flying around? Me too. I was so fixated on Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin and the defensive ends. And I missed them completely. Completely missed Jordan McGee out there with the ones. Shame on me, because remember, there was no Bobby Wagner. So who did you think was out there? It wasn't Jamin Davis. Duh. It didn't dawn on me until after the fact. Like, duh. I literally saw Bobby Wagner in street clothes. I knew he didn't play. So who did you think was out there at starting middle linebacker? I don't know where my head was at. I just got lost in the sauce. That's all. I just got lost. And when I went back and watched, I saw him flying around. I'm like, there's 58 right there. What do you mean did he play? He's right there, right in the mix. So, yeah, I was guilty too. Guilty as charged. So don't feel bad. I did the same thing. So we'll take one more comment and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. Red Wings 01 says, or I'll take 2 more because I see Assam Moore use the hashtag. So I'll take 2 more. Red Wings 01 says, I actually think the Broncos have a good, not great set of weapons, a good O-line aside from Wattenberg, and D-line is solid. Linebackers are a weak spot. Secondary has PS2 and some young pieces. I think that their roster isn't as bad. I know there was a Broncos fan in here, Shire, who felt like the Broncos have the worst roster in football, or at least the bottom 3. I don't think they're that bad. It's not a great roster by any stretch of the imagination. I don't love, their entire roster. I like their tight ends. I like their receivers. I like their back. If Javonte is healthy, I like their backs. I don't love their backs. I feel like they all do the same thing. Javonte's a little bit faster, but Samaje Perine, Audric Estime, and Javonte Williams all have similar body types. It's like you start out with big, then you get bigger with Perine, then you get to the biggest with Estime. I'm like, where's the speed guy in here? Where's the guy that can run? Like, they're all kind of similar in the way that they play. Like, where's the guy that's supposed to be the scat? And maybe that guy exists. Oh, they do have one. And he played a lot today. Shoot, what's his name? He's number 38. And he actually looked good too. So I take that back. So yeah, I like their running backs too, because I like 38. 38 is Jaleel McLaughlin, and he played well last year. And he was good in this game too, 7 carries, 30 yards. So I don't think that roster is as bad as you make it out to be. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, Forbes is in midseason form. He's about to be cut. Thanks, Ron. Straight ass. They're not going to cut him. I would be shocked. That would be the biggest shock of all shocks if in year 2 of his career, year 1 of this new regime, they just said, all right, Forbes, you're not good enough. They're not going to do that. Not going to do that. Absolutely not going to do that. So don't do him like that. Hey, that's crazy you said that, Red Wings 01. I saw 51. You're talking about Bo Bauer. I said, Lord have mercy, it looks like David Mayo is still on the roster. It's crazy that you said that. When I was watching the game, he got cooked to the outside, and he was running as hard as he could. I said, Lord have mercy. They literally cloned David Mayo and just put a different jersey name, different name on the back of the jersey. That's crazy that we made that same observation yesterday. Aside Moore, right? The Giants roster is still in shambles as well. Besides that D-line, I'm not scared of what they got going on. Relying on a rookie wide receiver that just got hurt is concerning. Their roster isn't bad, though. I don't think they belong in that conversation. I saw Red Wings put them in that conversation. I don't think they belong in that conversation. I saw Red Wings put our name in that conversation. I don't think we belong in that conversation either. And I get it. You know, when you look across the league, you start slotting these teams, you find yourself saying, well, our roster isn't better than theirs. It's not better than theirs. It's not better than theirs. The Giants aren't that bad off. I think their offensive line is still a work in progress. You don't love their running back position, but I like a couple of their running backs. I'm pretty sure you guys saw the Oklahoma running back break off that nice run for the time. I loved him coming out of Oklahoma 2 years ago. So I don't think their running back position is as bad as everybody makes it out. And I like Tyrone Tracy Jr., who they selected out of Purdue this year. So I think their running back room is solid. I think the receivers, now that they have a number 1, is solid. That slots everybody where they need to be, I believe. The tight end room is questionable. I want to see what the rookie out of Penn State looks like. I think their defense is really solid, like their linebackers, like their defensive line. Obviously, there are question marks at in the secondary, but overall, their roster isn't terrible. So, anyway, I digress. You guys are silly, man. That was crazy. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. You guys, thank you for joining me on this Sunday in live stream. Broncos and Colts week 1 preseason contest. One more preseason game to go to end week 1 of the preseason. Rams and Cowboys. That's an irrelevant game. Now, Trey Lance will play the bulk of this game. If you're interested, I may take a peek-see. I really don't care, though, to be honest. But I may take a peek-see just to see what he's doing. But the Rams aren't going to – they never play anybody in the preseason, nor do the Cowboys, which makes this game extremely irrelevant. So for all intents and purposes, preseason week 1 is in the books. So Broncos get the win 34-30 over the Indianapolis Colts. Bo Nix looked as advertised in this game. He went 15-21, 121 yards and a touchdown. I got another super chat before we get out of here. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I know we've given the Braden Daniels pick a lot of grief, but he looked good out there. Showed strength, technique, and looks bigger than last year. I'm not sure that they're going to give up on him. He's not making the team. I can assure you of that. But that doesn't mean he won't be on the practice squad, that they won't continue to try to work with him, right? At one point, it felt like they were just going to flat out cut him and not even try to put him on the practice squad. I beg to differ. I think they're going to continue to work with him and see if he can provide them with some sort of value. But I don't see him making the roster as of right now. There's too many guys that he will have to overtake to get there. When you start seeing them put Mason Brooks in at tackle before they put Braden Daniels in at tackle, it tells you all you need to know about just how far down the depth chart he truly is at this point. But good for him, and I agree he looks bigger. I didn't watch him enough to say that the technique and everything looked good, but he looks bigger. Physically, he looks stronger than he did when he was drafted out of Utah. I can say that. So we'll see if he continues to develop enough to the point where they feel comfortable putting him on the practice squad. But I can't see any way that this man makes the 53-man roster. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on him, though. I think Ricky Stromberg made a strong case. I thought he played really well, given the circumstances, how they were moving him around. A number of guys, I said to myself, hey, how about that? I didn't know you could do all of that. I didn't know you could play tackle, guard, and center. I didn't know you could play guard and center. Okay. Some guys made it interesting. I'll just say that in terms of the offensive line. I still feel really good about the 10 that I served up for you. With Mason Brooks playing tackle now. And again, I got to go back and watch to see if he was even, if that's even feasible moving forward. They might have said to themselves, okay, never, ever do that again, right? But if he can play tackle at all, he's definitely on this roster, is Mason Brooks. But again, it's either Mason Brooks, because I think Chris Paul is showing his worth, and I always felt like he was going to make the roster by being able to play tackle. It's Ricky Stromberg or Mason Brooks, because Michael Dieter is making this football team as the backup center. So you got to ask yourself, if you're keeping 10, is it Mason Brooks or is it Ricky Stromberg? Mason Brooks or Ricky Stromberg? That's, I think, the final question you have to ask yourself if you're talking offensive line. I think the other 9 spots, if you're keeping 10, are spoken for. That's the one where I feel like there's true competition there between those 2 players in particular. But I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Want to give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this live stream. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, use the link in the description below. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here, wrapping up Sunday afternoon football. Broncos get it done 34-30. Bo Nix looked really good in his preseason NFL debut. Anthony Richardson, not so much, but it's just good to see him back out on the football field. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. God bless. Good night.